Okay, good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, and Amy is returning from her vacation. So I will be the host for today's 9:30 call. This is Titus Ostromadius from Strategies for Children. And we are recording today's call because we have a very special guest um, who is from Children's Health Watch. And Charlotte Bruce, our guest today, is a senior research and policy analyst at the Children's Health Watch and the Healthy Families Tax Credits Coalition. Um, as many of you know, the early childhood agenda um, seeks to impact multiple priorities in early childhood policy, research, practice, advocacy, and we have 10 priorities. But one of those priorities, number 3A, is support tax credit fairness. And for that priority, we partner with Charlotte and others, but primarily Charlotte and her team from the Healthy Families Tax Credit Coalition. So please join me in welcoming Charlotte. And Charlotte, our first question on the 9:30 call is always tell us briefly about how you came to be in your role, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it. Glad to be here with everyone today. As I said, I'm Charlotte and I'm with Children's Health Watch, which is a pediatric research and policy network headquartered at Boston Medical Center. So I have a bit of a healthcare, public health background, and then got involved in the research and policy advocacy space, really because we're connecting our patients at BMC to resources like childcare, and just seeing the way that access to childcare and other resources that we work on impact health outcomes. So that's sort of our lens going into it as Children's Health Watch. And as Titus said, we launched about 9 years ago now the Healthy Families Tax Credits Coalition, which is a coalition, a statewide network around expanding refundable tax credits, which really is just a way to get more money back into families' pockets. So excited to be with you today. And then I have some slides I can queue up, but really want to tell you about two big things. One are these new tax credits that you and other families. And we just want to get the word out about the tax credits that you can claim them this tax season. And then also talk a little bit about our budget campaign and priorities as a coalition moving forward. All right. Assuming this works, thumbs up.
Looks good.
All right. Great. So this is, again, just some background about our coalition. So we have more than 30 groups across the state who are engaged and always looking for more members. So please feel free to reach out to me in the chat or later I'll put my email up if any of this interests you. So what are refundable tax credits? So as I mentioned, we really use refundable tax credits as a strategy to get money back into families' pockets. And so the way refundable credits work is if you have a credit that's larger than what you owe, you get that difference back as a check. And so often for families with low incomes or with no earned income that they're filing taxes for, they can get a pretty significant check around a few refundable tax credits. So we work primarily on the earned income tax credit and the child and family tax credit. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And so this past year in October, you may have seen that there was a large tax package passed by the legislature, and included in that was this child and family tax credit and earned income tax credit expansion. So to start with the child and family tax credit, so this is a universal credit. So no matter what your income is, if you have no earned income or you're a high income earner, you are eligible for this credit if you have a child under 13, a dependent with a disability, or a dependent over the age of 65, or a spouse who you're caring for. You are able to get $310 per dependent. So again, that's just a flat, there's no phase in, it's just a flat credit amount depending on how many eligible dependents you have in your household. And so, like I said, you can claim this tax season. So the deadline is coming up in Massachusetts, it's April 17th, but you are able to get an extension if needed. And the last thing I'll mention is, again, you don't need any income to qualify for this, just need to be eligible, have eligible dependents. And because this is through the tax system, and this is another reason why we really use this strategy around refundable tax credits is that they don't impact any of your DTA benefits or eligibility for childcare vouchers or anything like that. It's not considered income to claim these credits. The second big credit change is that we increase the amount you can get for your state earned income tax credit. So this works a little bit different from the child and family tax credit. So this is based on earnings. So you do have to have at least $1 of earned income in order to qualify. And it depends on your family size, but generally, if you make under $64,000, you could be eligible for the EITC. And so the way this works is there's a federal earned income tax credit, and Massachusetts now matches 40% of that. Previously, we matched only 30%. And so in terms of the maximum credits that in federal dollars, you can get just under $7,500 as a maximum credit. And then 40% of that is up to about $2,900 in Massachusetts. So a pretty significant amount of money. The average credit in Massachusetts last year was $2,100 on the federal level. So then paired with, again, the state credit, families on average are able to get about $3,000 paid back to them in a check, in a direct deposit this tax season. And so the EITC, you'll see on this picture, sort of the amount you get is based on earnings. So as you earn more, you get a larger credit, and then it plateaus and phases out until about $64,000. And this credit, I think, is a really significant one just because of the amount of money that it can provide for families. And I think in terms of the childcare lens, sort of having this twofold, one, more money to families' budgets to afford things like childcare and other basic needs. But also we know that a lot of childcare providers benefit from the earned income tax credit because of the wages that they're paid in Massachusetts. And this is pretty busy, but just to give you just kind of a general look, and I know we'll share the slides afterwards, but in terms of this shows like filing status, how many children you have, and whether you qualify and for how much. So like I said, we have these two new credits, and it's really important, even though we passed these policies, the policy is only as good as the implementation, and we want to make sure that families who are eligible know about the credit and are claiming the credit. So two things I want to draw your attention to. First is this website, findyourfunds.org, that has all information, tax credits about these, about federal credits, how you can claim them. And I'll point, I circled on the slide here, there is a tab around outreach materials. So we ask that if you're able to share with your networks, there are outreach flyers that are available in 11 languages on the website. So really easy to share with providers, with your network, as well as just play around on this website to see if you are eligible or any other questions you might have. Most of that information is on here. The second piece in this information is also on that landing page, Find Your Funds, but volunteer income tax assistance are free tax prep sites across Massachusetts. So there are more than 80 VITA sites in greater Boston area. There's several more in Boston, including at Boston Medical Center. But these are really just co-located tax prep sites. So if you make under that $64,000, you're able to go for free and get help filing your taxes to make sure you're not leaving any of that money on the table. If you are able to file online, there are some really good resources just through the IRS website that are sort of self-guided, including in Massachusetts, new this year, we are participating in a direct file pilot.
Jeremy, are you seeing Charlotte? Am I frozen or is Charlotte?
Oh, did I freeze?
You're back.
Yeah, you froze for a second, but
oh, sorry about that. Okay, what did I cut out at?
I heard you start talking about this slide, the direct file pilot, but I did not hear any of the details. But this is exciting. So maybe you could repeat the details of the pilot.
Yes, sorry about that. So the direct file pilot, Massachusetts is one of a handful of states who is participating in this national pilot. And so the IRS has created this new tool that you can use on your phone, online, that's really for simple tax filers. So if you have a simple return, it's free, easy to use, and we've already seen videos of people doing it in 5 minutes or less, and it's just a really easy, quick way to get those credits, especially if you don't have a very complicated tax return. And if you do, we do recommend, going to a VITA site if you're able to. VITA also provides online counseling, and that's really helpful if you're not too sure about the credits you could be eligible for or how to do this.
So Charlotte, I have a question for you.
Yes.
As someone who files early, and many of the folks on this call may be in that camp, but you're just learning about this now. Is it possible to go back and amend your filing, or go back to your tax preparer or use this website to claim the tax credit? Or do you have to say, basically say, oh, next year, save your information and file twice next year or something?
Yeah.
How would
That's
that
a
work?
good question. I am not completely sure. I know that you will be able to claim the credit, that you don't just lose them. I'm not sure if you'd have to wait until next year, if you could amend them, but I can definitely look into that. But I think oftentimes, I mean, a lot of people don't claim these credits, right? Because they're going through the tax filing process and they just aren't aware that they're eligible of them for them. So definitely want to make sure, if you are eligible, that you claim those. So if you already filed your taxes and don't see it on there, I can definitely connect with you and connect you to some of our tax preparers who are able to get more into this with you.
Great. Well, can I ask another question?
Yes, please.
So, and please, if you all have questions for Charlotte, add to chat and I can moderate. Jeremy can help me moderate if I miss any, but okay, you mentioned earlier that a lot of early educators, early childhood professionals may benefit from this due to their wages being, putting them in the trapezoid, if you will, of eligibility. Do you have any data, even nationally, about how many early childhood professionals are getting the earned income tax credit? It'd be
Well, that's a
interesting to
great
know for
question.
Massachusetts, but I appreciate that it might be harder to find the state specific counts.
Yeah, I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I think that's a really interesting question. And we could definitely at least look by, income range and the average salary in Massachusetts. But I think that's a really interesting question that I can
Yeah, and
certainly
come up with
follow.
an estimate of how many would be likely to be eligible. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Love the questions. Giving me some homework. All right, so that I'm just going to pause there. If there are any more questions about the newly expanded credits that you could be eligible, or others that you work with could be eligible. And now I'm going to switch gears over to more of the coalition and advocacy work that we're doing in coordination with the early childhood agenda. So our budget campaign this year, given that we just had these large expansions and aren't anticipating any huge increase in the amount that the credit, we're really focusing on eligibility. So since our coalition launched in 2015, we've really been focused around extending the eligibility for the earned income tax credit, in particular to working immigrants who file taxes using an individual taxpayer identification number, so an ITIN, instead of a social security number. So right now for the credit, immigrants who have that ITIN as well as their citizen family. So if they have a citizen spouse or child, because they are in that mixed status family household, the whole family is ineligible. And so we see this as a huge inequity and hugely unfair, and something that needs to change within our tax code. And so we are really focusing on that for our budget campaign this year. And so have some numbers up there on the screen. It's about 76,000 individuals in 26,000 households across Massachusetts are excluded and could benefit if this eligibility is extended. And about 2/3 of those families are mixed status. So again, the mixed immigrant and U.S. citizen households. And the cost, like I mentioned, is relatively low. It would be between 22 and $28 million in next year's budget. And so, we know, as I'm sure you all have talked about, revenues are down this year. And so we've been hearing a lot about, belt tightening with the state budget. But we see this as a really important change, and again, relatively low cost compared to the rest of the budget. I will say that 10 other states, including Maine and Vermont, our neighbors have included ITIN filers in their EITC, so it has been done before, and we're really trying to push that with legislators, that we want to be at the forefront of this and make sure that all of our workers are able to claim these credits. I will say this is specifically for the earned income tax credit. Immigrants who have that individual taxpayer identification number are eligible for the child and family tax credit. So that $310 per dependent credit I talked about at the top, all families are eligible for that. Again, regardless of income, regardless of immigration status, you're able to claim that if you have an eligible dependent. So this is focused on the EITC. So what can you do? What are we asking for today? So one, like I said, really spreading the word about the new credits and how people can access them. So again, that Find Your Funds webpage that has really great flyers in multiple languages, has all the VITA sites and tax prepare locations. You can just enter your zip code on that web page and it'll pop up all the places that you can go and get free tax help. So really recommend that. And as much as you can, tell folks about the new credits so that they can claim them is amazing. In terms of the policy and advocacy campaign that we're leading, like I said, we'd love if you're able to join the Healthy Families Tax Credits Coalition, either as an organization or just as an individual if you want to join our listservs, just so you are up to date with what's going on in terms of events, meetings. We have monthly coalition calls where we give those sorts of updates and talk about any progress on the policy side. So welcome any participation in any capacity there. And then lastly, to the extent that you are talking to legislators about other budget priorities, if you are able to include extending the earned income tax credit to working immigrants and their families, that's again our main policy priority this year. Then we've been getting some traction in the building. So if you're able to include that, as much as legislators hear about this issue, the better chance it has of being included. So those are our three big asks. I put our website there, our Twitter there, and then my contact is just charlotte.bruce@bmc.org.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlotte. And maybe Jeremy, who knows those links, could put them in the chat. We will get your slides and archive them in the 9:30 call materials Google Drive. I see a good question in the chat from Edna Cabral. Do you know if any of these sites are familiar with FCC's, which is Family Child Care, tax return filing? And I'm guessing she means the VITA sites. Family child cares have specific regulations, tax breaks that will make a substantial difference on the tax returns. And family child cares are always looking for tax preparers who are knowledgeable about their business.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the VITA sites. They are the absolute experts and they are able to handle tax returns from all sorts of people, including the FCCs. And I understand that there's a lot of the complicated pieces. Would not recommend direct file for those folks because again, that's for the really simple ones, but the VITA sites are able to help with that.
Great. And Harold and Paula ask, are these credits available for childcare businesses? Meaning I have an FCC at my home, but the business has its own S Corp.
So they're not available for businesses. They're specifically for individuals and for households. So it would be whether you as an individual for the child and family tax credit, if you have a dependent that you're claiming, and then with the earned income tax credit, it would be based on your income that you're filing.
Great. Don't think VITA will do taxes since they are businesses. Any thoughts on that, Joanne? I mean, Charlotte, Joanne's question about VITA. Well, the VITA sites do they prepare your taxes for you, or they just give the information and then you have to go to a separate tax preparer?
They'll do the tax preparation. It depends what you want to do. If they'll do as much as sitting down with you and filing it step by step, or they'll do it, just provide you with the information if you'd rather do it online. I think, yeah, if you're the owner of a FCC and are filing your individual taxes and that is included, I think that would be something that they could help with. But if not, again, they're really the experts on the tax filing, so they could at least point you in the right direction.
Great. Well, I have a follow-up question about the budget campaigns. So you wrote in your slide up to 76,000 individuals, 26,000 households could be eligible if this campaign goes through. How many of those have young children in them, I wonder? Because I mean, we can all get behind the budget ask. And like you said, it's only 22 to 28 million, which in the grand scheme of the state budget is not a huge ask. But I'm thinking specifically a message for folks who are part of the early childhood agenda might be, in addition, like an estimated 1/4 of the household, 26,000 households have children under 5 or under 8 or something like that. Is there any data on that?
That is a great point. I don't have that data off the top of my head, but I did share Mass Budget has been really excellent in getting all of these numbers and estimates for us. And so I can definitely follow up with them. They just put out a report that has all those numbers I quoted, as well as the mix status. But I think since they were able to already look at the data by the mixed status versus immigrant only, I would assume that they'd be able to maybe get that data about who else is in the household. So I can definitely follow up about the kids' age as well.
Okay, great. Jeremy put a resource. Yeah, so on the same topic of mass budget, there's a link in chat that Jeremy posted, which can tell you more about how families in your district benefit from these credits. What is that? Legislative district or community, like municipality?
Yeah, so that was that's a great tool that we used in some of our advocacy before these were passed. So the mass budget tool models the amount of people in your district. So we use this when we are, talking to legislators and saying these are the number of families and this is the amount of money that's going to be channeled into your district with these changes. So that's definitely a good tool just to, get an understanding of how many people in your community would benefit. In your district, rather.
Very cool.
And it's at the state or senator and representative levels.
Nice. As we all have been aware, the House budget is being put together right now behind the closed doors of the House Ways and Means Committee and with input from all the House members. And we expect it to come out, I think, around April 10th. So the House budget comes first and is debated in April and passes in April, and then the Senate budget happens in May. So these are good asks to include when you're doing your advocacy. I just want to share before we run out of time, the Early Childhood Agenda webpage that lists all of the agenda priorities so that you can kind of see how this piece fits into the bigger picture of the early childhood agenda. And this quote by Rosie Batista sums it up pretty well. I love using our collective expertise and power to advance together. We cannot transform our systems within silos. So as a reminder, we have 10 priorities, and they stood upon these 5 focus areas here, including financially secure families. And you can see, 1, 2, 3, 3A, as we mentioned, is support tax credit fairness. You can click on that, and there's a link to the Healthy Families Tax Credit Coalition. And if you want to see the more of the priorities, you can scroll down. Many of you are involved in our early childhood agenda work groups. So this was a good call for kind of stitching together those silos. Thank you, Charlotte, for all the work you do, to help our state, our children, our families, and the households that are able to benefit from these tax credits. It's really important for a more equitable economy. Is there any final thing that you'd like to share with us before we close?
I see one more question in the chat around if these tax credits are dependent on the state tax collection. So the ones that I talked about at the front that are already implemented, those don't depend on revenue. So if you're eligible, you'll get that no matter what.
Great question. Okay, well, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Jeremy. And thank you all for your attendance today and for having this issue on your radar. Tomorrow on the 9:30 call, we're going to hear from Dr. Angela Fowler at the Department of Public Health. So bring your questions about colds and viruses and other things that may be on your mind if you're in the early childhood field, or if you are raising young children in your household, or if you just don't want to get sick anymore this winter and this spring. And Dr. Fowler, I'm sure, will be able to help you with your questions. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.